Welcome back. You're listening to Home Wizards. I'm Cindy Dole.
Hey, I'm Eric Stroman.
And, Eric, I was looking online at this video. In fact, we saw this at one of the showcase homes that we visited earlier in the year. But basically, it's a cool, inexpensive way to add some decor, I guess you'd say, to your wall using a photo that you love. And then you go online, and there are companies that will turn that photo into tile. And then now you can, and then there are little pieces of tile, so it's almost like a puzzle. And then you can assemble these tile pieces together, and now it becomes frameable art. Isn't that a cool idea?
Yeah, it really is. I love it. I mean, there's so many great ways to take what you have, your own images, especially now that cell phones have like the same kind of digital quality that, cameras 10 years ago had that were thousands of dollars. So pretty much anything can be turned into potential art pieces.
Yeah, I mean, for anything from nothing to a couple $100 top. So let's talk about some ways to decorate that wall, or maybe of many walls that just you're looking at a blank wall and you're kind of going, well, I don't know what to do. I'm kind of paralyzed. I don't want it to be a blank wall, but where do I begin?
Well, the first thing I always like to talk about, just because of my crazy nut job kids, I got 3 of them under 14, and we literally get volumes and volumes of drawings and paintings and different things that they do in school or at home. And we actually have a wall in our home that essentially becomes a revolving art gallery. It's a beautiful blank wall that's in the kitchen, and I just turned it into a place where, instead of even spending the time framing it, it's gotten to the point where we're rotating it so much that I just put duct tape behind these different pieces, and I just put them up in a grid pattern, and then we rotate it every couple of weeks, and it ends up being really cute. New images show up all the time. Everybody's honored and revered, and we have, kids that have the highest self-esteem of anyone you've ever known who make art in the history of the world, because it's like, oh my, look, you made a line.
You have a stick figure. That's the cutest darn little stick figure I've ever seen. Wow.
Yeah.
But no, that is cool. I mean, a good way to celebrate family togetherness by putting things on the wall. And we saw this at one of the trade shows, this new art, or I should say this new paint that's basically dry erase paint. And so instead of having to tape things up, you can just write on the wall and then erase it.
Yeah, this is so cool, this product. It's basically it's a 2-stage epoxy situation where you mix 2 different canisters together to create one. And whatever color your existing wall already is, you can just go over it. It's a clear coat. And then once it sets up and dries, you can literally dry erase on
with a felt pen. Yeah, you get those dry erase felt pens that normally you'd have to use that on a board of some kind. Now your entire wall or your entire room is ready for you to have an art frenzy.
Right. And then there's also the product that's been out there for a couple of years now, chalkboard paint, which does sort of the same thing.
Yeah, we love that idea. I mean, it could be as simple as using the chalkboard paint and painting a framed mirror. So now you have a beautiful gold gilded frame, let's say, and the mirror that's in the center now becomes your little section to turn it into a chalkboard using the chalkboard paint. But how about some of the other just basic ideas when you're staring at a blank wall and you're going, okay, now where do I begin? How do I get my inspiration? How do I just kind of start out with something? I think that if you have calendars. Now, hey, hang on with me for a second now. A lot of times people, even though we live in the digital world with our Google Calendar and our other kind of calendars, I still have paper calendars that I get every year. I collect sheepdog calendars. I know. I love. How about that?
Hey,
I know.
Yeah.
The herding group. We're talking about the Westminster show, and it was a dog named, I think, Swagger that won the herding group. But anyway, so you can
Wait, hold on. Interject something. I'm sitting there. My mother-in-law's in town last week. She has this dog show on. I would never in a million years watch this thing. But before you know it, I am literally glued to the TV like I'm watching the Super Bowl. Yeah, I thought it was incredibly exciting. And your dog made one of the finalists.
The Old English.
building a sheepdog. I thought it was great.
It's very fun. I know you can't tell the difference between their head and their rump, but that's okay.
That's
They're very furry. But so anyway, so I collect the sheepdog calendars, and they're very fun photos of sheepdogs all over the world, different ages. But that's just my thing. But you might have calendars of guitars, or vintage cars, or babes, whatever it is. But it can become.
Hey, you've been in my school set.
I have. Yeah, speaking of calendars, right? And so you could use the calendars, whether it's beautiful art. A lot of times people collect calendars from museums. You can now, take a frame and get maybe, I don't know, six frames, all the same either theme or all the same color as a rim or whatever it is to kind of give it a unifier, and then just frame the calendars, the art or the picture in the calendar. I mean, it sounds really simple, but it can be cute.
Yeah, and what I love that you did at your house is Cindy also collects these antique antique radios, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she hung little shelves up on the wall and staggered them at different heights on that wall, and it's such an amazing visual interest. It looks like you're in a museum, viewing these old antique radios.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great idea as well.
Any kind of collection, exactly. Let's say if you don't have a collection, but you still want to do something, that looks great on the wall. You guys have this. It's the whole idea of oversized art, and whether it's an oversized photo of someone that you love, whether it's a relative or a pet, I mean, talk about that. You have some beautiful, huge photography in your entry family room there.
Yeah, we took some photos of our kids and blew them up, basically I think they're about 4 feet by 5 feet in black frames with white matting. And
it's dramatic. It's great.
It's dramatic. Yeah, it's really cool. Now, my mom thinks that my middle kid, Dusty, in one of those pictures looks like Winston Churchill.
Oh.
But we won't get into that. But anyway,
well, that's pretty good. Winston Churchill's a good guy. But I mean, think big. I think that if you think of the whole idea, even if you don't want to put it on the wall, but just kind of perch it on the floor up against, from the floor to the ceiling almost, giving it that stretched fabric around a canvas frame look, that oversized art. It's great.
Even an oversized mirror, I think, looks great in a living room or an area like a bedroom, for example, if you need a dressing mirror. They sell these huge oversized frames, and you can either have a mirror installed in the back of it or you can buy it pre-done.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I love, too, is considering the upper third of your room and essentially creating like an upper tier gallery. So imagine, if you will, the top 2 feet from the ceiling down. You can either use that with molding to separate out that space from the other lower part of the wall, or just put a series of photos, maybe black and white or color photos of family, but completely line the entire perimeter of the room. Mm-hmm. And it draws your eye up when you walk into the room, and it keeps stuff off the wall to, have more order and organization. If it's an office situation,
yeah.
Place to put your calendar and stuff like that.
How about also if you have some really cool books, or maybe they aren't even cool, they just had a really beautiful cover and they're no longer readable, or you're done with them, or maybe they were all tied to let's say that you love mystery books, or you love books about certain music artists, and then you can now frame the book cover and create, again, almost like a collection of maybe a dozen or so. I think that's kind of a cool idea.
Sure is. You know what else I love too is sometimes you'll find these in old antique stores, or even you may have had some of your own plans done for your architecture.
The design of the house,
the design of the garden. The garden stuff is usually really colorful and looks great, but frame those.
Like the blueprint itself, and it might even have some watercolor on it. It was a CAD drawing, right, that shows where the plants would go and the outline of the home. And you're right, sometimes they almost have like a pastel, like a watercolor look to them,
That's right. Yeah,
very fun. There's a great, or you can even get historic maps. We've seen this done in design homes where you get maps from all over the world, or maps of certain destinations, or maybe it's of your travels, and then you frame those and make a collection. That becomes really interesting, inspirational wall art to kind of fill that vacant space.
Yeah.
You can also use baskets as art. I mean, sometimes you might go, I'm not into baskets, but you might want the cottage look or the country look, and you can hang a different wicker baskets that are shallow and woven and add texture now to your wall, especially if they have maybe a similar kind of a color or tone, or maybe if you can, spray paint them all. That's going to give kind of a natural material pop against a wall color of any kind.
Yeah, and anytime you have the monochromatic collection of things, especially if it's frames, a can of spray paint really goes a long way, and it can look really, really pretty. And, you don't have to be a professional painter to achieve that look. It's going to end up looking as good as you can imagine. So give it a try. Don't worry about it, especially if they're inexpensive frames you get at an art and craft store. Mm-hmm. You make them all one tone, and then you put your black and white or color photos in there. Looks great.
So really, I think the step one is when you're thinking about it, you've been listening to this, and you go, okay, I'm inspired. I want to do this, right? Just number one is just to begin by thinking of your theme. What's it going to be? Is it going to be a certain kind of a nature motif? Is it a collection of something that you love, your music, your books? Is it plants? Is it a connection with certain colors? Just kind of go and focus on that, and now you'll be able to begin, okay, now where am I going to go from here? I'm going to frame those pieces, and I'm going to get that look in that particular room that has just a boring, bland, vacant wall.
Yeah, and even little shadow boxes that you buy that you can put pieces of china in there.
That's fun.
Could be a nice grouping of things.
Fun idea. Well. All right. Well, when we come back, we have some ideas to turn your bathroom around very quickly and very inexpensively, and we're going to talk you through it, right? Because who doesn't want a great bathroom that's going to make you feel clean and fresh and ready for the day? Eric Stormer, Cindy Dole, we love to improve your home and improve your life. This is Home Wizards.